Welcome back to the F1 2018 career mode here, guys, and you join me for the Season 2 Canadian Grand Prix, one of my favourite tracks of all time in Formula 1, and we're going to see what we can do. Very, very power-based, a long back straight, we've got a tyre wear upgrade and 2 fuel consumption upgrades coming to the car this time out, and like I said, we've got a big old long back straight where we can utilise our massive engine power to be able to make many overtakes and see if we can do anything special here. Looking at the chart, Ferrari just ahead of Aston Martin, Red Bull Racing, who are just ahead of us, and we're just ahead of Renault. So it's getting very spicy at the top of the Formula 1 calendar as we now move into qualifying. Let's see what we can do. This was, of course, you cast your mind back to F1 2017, where we stuck the McLaren on the front row next to Sebastian Vettel. So what can we do in the Pink Panther, the Force India, the drumstick, as I sometimes like to refer to it here? Unfortunately, in qualifying, I'd done a bit of a stupid, and I hadn't changed my engine. So I pointed out in the Monaco Grand Prix that we were running, of course, an old engine in the aspect we didn't need all the engine power. We sort of need that in Canada, and I hadn't changed the engine for qualifying, so that's going to hamper us a bit in our straight line speed, but nonetheless, what's done is done, and we have to commit now. We were 2 tenths up in the first sector. Sainz is fastest. We're slowly dropping down as times are being posted. We're going to come across the second sector split. We're now half a second down versus Carlos Sainz, and then we've got it horrifically wrong into the hairpin at the end of the lap. But now this is where we build up maximum power, maximum attack. We go hot lap mode for the most part. Are we going to bump it up to overtake at any point? Yes, we are to utilise that speed up to 216 miles an hour before we hit the brakes and clout the curbs at the end of the lap. Up back into hot lap mode, charging towards the line as we set a 1 minute 9.2, and even though it's a worn engine versus guys running Renault power, that is progress, only to immediately be topped by Sergio Perez. So we've dropped down to 8th as the session went on, so we're out for another lap and another run. Let's see what we can do as we overtake, then down to hot lap into turn 1. We've gone a bit deep initially, but then we rotate the car nicely through the second part of the corner. Compared to the Delta, it's not great, but let's see what we can do as the lap goes on. Now, you will notice for this lap, after my first lap was scruffy, I want to make this lap tidier. And I'm running the Ultra Soft tyre. That's right, I'm not running the Hyper Soft in qualifying. I'm running the Ultra Soft with the intention to do a one-stop strategy in the race. We've seen it before recently where I've made so much time up in so many places using strategy as opposed to speed. Let's see what we can do. So into the chicane, we're up on our Delta. Coming out of the chicane, we're going to do a personal best, and as long as we set our best lap on these tyres, that's the tyres we'll start on. Provisional P6, fastest final sector. Look at that, 27.6 for the final sector for utilising the curbs. Middle sector and first sector, we're dropping a bit of time, especially compared to our teammate Sergio Perez there, but we are running the Ultra Softs. We're going to start on the Ultra Softs, and more to the point, we're going to start with a fresh engine. Let's see what we can do tomorrow. I'm very excited going into this one because fresh power unit, maximum power, guaranteed one-stop strategy versus people who are unsure what they're going to be doing could mean a special result for me in Season 2, Canada. Let's get into it.
We're back once again beside the St. Lawrence River here in Montreal for the Canadian Grand Prix. The event first moved to a variant of this track back in 1978. It was won by none other than Gilles Villeneuve, the first Canadian to ever win his home race, and in whose honour the circuit would be renamed. It's one of the fastest races of the season here at the circuit Gilles Villeneuve, with around 60% of this 2.7-mile circuit taken at full throttle. There are 14 corners to navigate, the very last of which has its very own infamous history. Could be the cause of a safety car today. Anthony Davidson joins me again for the race today. Let's talk about Force India. What do you make of their performance so far this season?
Well, the atmosphere within that team seems very positive at the moment. Everyone seems like they're in great spirits and having a lot of fun doing what they do, and that's definitely contributed to the performances we've seen.
So before the off, Let's remind ourselves of yesterday's qualifying session with a look at the starting grid. Sebastian Vettel will start on pole. Fantastic qualifying from the multiple world champion. And P2 goes to Daniel Ricciardo. A strong showing from the Australian. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Verstappen, Raikkonen, Lewis Hamilton, the captain, Bottas, Hülkenberg, Sainz, and Kevin Magnussen. Perez. They've taken a grid penalty. Sirotkin, Fernando Alonso, and Grosjean. Stroll, Gasly, Brendan Hartley, and Charles Leclerc. Van Dorn and Marcus Ericsson rounds off the grid. Now it's almost time to lights out, so let's go down to the track.
So here we have it. One-stop strategy in place versus those running the Hypersoft tyre. They could try and stretch that and then go to supers, or they have to then make 2 pit stops. I feel like I've made the smarter choice of running low aero, 5.4 on the wings, and we're going to flick through the strategy. You'll be able to see it on screen momentarily. I'm feeling very confident about this one. I know what the field is like at the start of one of these races, and the AI can get very bunched up very quickly, and that can, of course, slow them down tremendously. So let's try and take advantage of that throughout the Grand Prix. I've adjusted the brake pressure a little bit. We're now going more slightly towards the rear, as I was actually locking the front tyres into the Nouvelle chicane in practice. So, as we build, tension rises, calm before the storm. 5 lights for the Canadian Grand Prix. Lights are out and away we go from P6 on the grid. It's an initially decent start. Ricciardo appears to have had a decent one initially, but now Magnussen's trying to attack him. He's down to P3. We're on the inside of Lewis Hamilton. Apparently we've hit Hülkenberg and Hamilton at some point at the start. We're up to P5 initially there. Even on our ultras we were able to make that stick. And we've had to go wide initially, bump over the grass, but that nearly put us into the wall. So we haven't exactly gained anything there, but Vettel leads away then, Ricciardo, Verstappen, Raikkonen P4. We are then in P5, Lewis Hamilton P6 behind me. Then comes the 2 Renaults and Perez down the field a little bit on the basis of him taking a grid penalty. Otherwise he would have started ahead of me. I believe he was initially P6. And of course we now are up behind Raikkonen and Verstappen. Just look at the speed that we gain as we come through the final sector. In the slipstream of Kimi Raikkonen overtake mode, we think about having a look, but upon closing speed realised we weren't going to be able to get past the Ferrari driver. But even on this harder compound of tyre, we're thinking about it and we're going to have a look. So let's see exactly what we're going to do here versus Raikkonen, as we once again get acceleration out of the hairpin. We're in that slipstream. DRS not yet enabled, but we've got hot lap mode, overtake mode. Can we use the slingshot to pass Raikkonen into the chicane? We're not quite going to be close enough in my opinion, but Raikkonen has gone wide. We tucked it and took the curb better than him. We're side by side coming across the start finish line, half second off the best pace of the race. We have to be careful versus the Red Bull of Verstappen, but Raikkonen can't keep it on the outside, up into P4. Vettel and Ricciardo pulling away from Verstappen in P3. And we had to be very careful versus Verstappen into P1, like I said. Now, end of lap 3. Now we do have DRS enabled. And now we're against a car with a much weaker engine than the Ferrari. It's the Tag Heuer branded Renault in the red one. Look at the speed differential here.
They seem to have an issue.
Absolute no contest into the final chicane. I barely got the car slowed down into the chicane. So, Rich, hot lap. The car in 3 laps has gone from P6 to P3, and I'm feeling confident enough and I'm feeling brave enough to try and chase down the leaders. So here we go. Raikkonen has a problem and is falling through the field. We set a personal best lap of the Grand Prix at the end of P4, a 1:11.7. That is a 10th off leader pace on a softer compound of tyre. Vettel and Ricciardo are battling and they're falling back into my clutches. So lap 5, Ricciardo right up behind Vettel. I've clouted the wall and thankfully don't have any damage for it. I'm actually on low ERS mode to try and harvest some of it, because once I catch up to these guys, it's going to be an attempted pass. Ricciardo will be able to get in the straight line relatively easy. Vettel's going to be the trickier one, but here we go. Safety car has been deployed, and that's sort of going to... It's going to initially ruin my plans of slingshotting past Ricciardo, because they were due to come in a couple of laps anyway. Is this going to trigger a pit stop from the pair of them? Because their hypersofts were definitely running out. Our tyres are perfectly fine. We don't need to pit. And both of them do come in. So Vettel and Ricciardo peel into the pit lane. Now, what tyres are they going to go for? And do they think they can go all the way to the end of the race? Vettel's on the Ultras. Ricciardo's on the Ultras. They're not going to take them 28 laps left in the Grand Prix. So are they behind me? Ricciardo is still in P2. So Ricciardo has jumped Vettel in the pit stops. And now Jeff's offering me a new strategy, which is Ultras to Super. So he wants me to convert to a 2-stop, and I'm telling him no, 1 stop will do fine. So Ricciardo still P2, has jumped Vettel, and Alonso is now in P3. Hartley is retired from the Grand Prix. I don't know where that's come from. He appears to have stopped on the way up to that hairpin, but interesting enough. So maximum 100% ERS. Just trying to heat up the tyres by weaving. I think this is the first time we've led from behind the safety car, actually. Especially on this year's game, at least. Saving fuel, and now we're going to go. So, Rich, hot lap, here we go. Pull away from Daniel Ricciardo and into the lead of the Canadian Grand Prix as we come across the line now to start lap 9. Both got 1 stop left remaining. This is going to be a fight between me and Ricciardo for the Canadian Grand Prix victory. Let's see what's what. As we now have already dropped down to high. We don't want to use too much on the ERS, but Ricciardo's tyres, you've got to remember, they're fresher. They haven't done a lap in qualifying, and they were fresh out the blanket, so they're better tyres. Not saying mine are worse, but here's a fresher, and he's going to try round the outside of the hairpin at the end of the circuit. We have to squeeze him into the wall to make sure he can't get us on acceleration, and we know that our Mercedes engine, now Force India, is supremely powerful, even with DRS, rich and high. In fact, DRS isn't enabled yet, and see Ricciardo just not able to make the move, and he compromised his line through the chicane. He's going to drop back to a decent bit behind me as we cross the start-finish line. Ricciardo is 1.5 seconds back, and Vettel now up into P3, so this now could transition into a 3-way fight for the lead and the win here at Canada. We cross the line. 1:12.1. Ricciardo fastest lap, 1:11.4. Vettel closing in, and Perez also only 7.4 off me there, as you just heard on the radio. So Perez definitely, if he gets a break and puts in some lap times, could easily still have a result. But we're not slowing down by any stretch of the imagination. We've just set the fastest first sector of the Grand Prix so far. So these tyres, even though they've had some life taken out of them, they've still got some grip. But Ricciardo has had a brilliant run through the chicane. Is he going to get through on the inside? We can't really do anything about it, as he parked his Red Bull perfectly. But the one problem Ricciardo's made, it wasn't a very intelligent move, because I've now crossed the DRS detection zone. So I have the DRS on this back straight and not him. So while it was a good move, unfortunately, it's going to come back to bite him. Here we go. DRS open. Rich. We're not even going to go more than high. Rich and high is enough to be able to overtake this Red Bull. We're going to have to go to the outside. Think about it. Ricciardo blocks, compromises line. Bit of wheel banging from both cars. We have to just squeeze through. It wasn't the cleanest of overtakes, unlike Verstappen earlier on in the Grand Prix. Maybe I should have used higher ERS mix, but nonetheless, back up into P1 and through lap 13 now. Ricciardo. I was struggling through that chicane at the start of the second sector. Ricciardo's going to have another run. We're going to force him to the outside. Of course, DRS on that point of the circuit. 3 points of DRS on the Canadian Grand Prix circuit. We've forced him to the outside. That's going to put him into the path of Sebastian Vettel. We're due to be coming in a couple of laps' time. I believe we're due to pit at the end of lap 15 for our fresh tyres. And Ricciardo and Vettel sort of got into tussling each other. So yes, we are due to pit at the end of this lap. So we do a personal best of a 1:11.5. And clearly the tyres have still got it as Vettel and Ricciardo battle between turns 1 and 2. But, I mean, if I'm still setting personal bests on tyres that are 15 or 14 laps old, or about 17 or 18 if we consider qualifying, I just kept going. And I kept going all the way till the end of lap 18. Lap 18, I've gone 3 laps longer than I needed to on these tyres. And if you look at the minimap, where the hell are Ricciardo and Vettel? They've been too busy battling each other, and I've built myself a nice cushy, about 7 or 8 second lead. So we're coming in. We're still, of course, going to fit the super soft tyre, as that is, of course, we have to use a different compound of tyre in the Grand Prix, so we have to go super soft. But now we've done half the race on Ultras, we can do half the race on Supers, and we're not really going to have to do much care of them. And we're going to come out just ahead of our teammate Sergio Perez, who's on Ultras and still, of course, has another pit stop left to make in this Grand Prix. But I think we should be good, as now we come across the line at the end of lap 19, attacking the chicane with our fresh tyres. Ricardo in the pits onto super softs, so he could only manage one lap further. It's a 1:12.4 on my out lap. What can we do with rich and hot lap mode using some DRS versus Bottas? Is this going to be a slingshot to the fastest lap of the Grand Prix? Let's see as Bottas defends. Does he pull into the pit lane? It looks like he's going to. It compromised my line over the chicane, but we've still got, of course, DRS, and Bottas didn't pull into the pits. Vettel has. We do slingshot to the fastest lap of the Grand Prix into the 1 minute 10s, a 1 minute 10.988 fastest lap of the Grand Prix, and we overtook Bottas while we were doing it. So now we're gonna go again. This time we have a cleaner run through the final chicane. I've not had the slingshot this time around, but just going to show that a clean lap can still net you a result. We go even faster, only by half a tenth. But bear in mind, that was half a tenth without 2 bouts of DRS and some slipstream down the back straight. So effective some clean air running is. And at this point of the Grand Prix, I was just pushing, because again, I've matched on lap 29. My tyres are over 10 laps old at this point, and I match my personal best by pushing the car rich and hot lap in fresh air. So at that point, this is the sort of point where I was just having fun, you know, where they have to radio into like the F1 drivers in the real life Grand Prix and say, we don't need that, just chill it out. So, and we're actually coming up to lap back markers, so we've got a little bit of a back marker action. There's Marcus Ericsson getting lapped, here's Stoffel Van Dorn getting lapped on lap 32, and we're going to have Sergei Sorokin any minute now, and Carlos Sainz down in 16th place. It has all gone wrong for the Renault of Carlos Sainz, but now we come through the final chicane and Sorokin moves out of the way. Footage of me doing lapping back markers. Don't say I don't do anything for them, but we now move on. And I, interestingly enough, what I had done is for the past few laps, I've been saving fuel. I've been in lean and I've been on none. I've just basically been protecting the car for these last few laps because, well, I wanted to conduct an experiment. And my experiment was my tyres are only 25% worn. Get a bit of clear air. I'm not going to catch Sainz on this last lap. Let's crank it up. So, hot lap mode, rich mix. My tyres have done 50% of this race. But let's see, if we just let loose on these worn tyres, what could actually happen. It hasn't been the brilliant run through turns 1 and 2, but I think it carried so much apex speed through turn 1. I should be absolutely fine. Admittedly, taking questionable lines, if we're honest, but I think I've deserved this Grand Prix victory, and it's the fastest first sector of the race so far. This was just more me having fun, like I said, at this point. As we come down, we're still on a purple lap at this particular point of the race, but now, annoyingly enough, like I say, we're not going to have that slingshot. If we'd been closer to Sainz to get some DRS and slipstream on this back straight, that would have been nice. And of course, I wanted to make sure I didn't run out of ERS deployment, so we're down to high only on this back straight. Back up to hot lap for out of the chicane. We're going to take a big old leap over the curbs. Had to decelerate a little bit as we charge towards the line. It's our maiden win in Canada.
Fantastic drive, just fantastic. You deserved that race win.
Brilliant stuff from Force India today. What a superb victory. And Anthony Davidson, give me your thoughts. How did they accomplish this result?
Without a doubt, the safety car changed everything today. The key to their success was keeping calm and reacting to the situation quickly. We've seen teams in the past throw away wins because they were too hesitant, but here they were decisive, and that's allowed them to take the advantage.
It's time to present the top drivers with their trophies for today's Grand Prix. And there are a lot of people in the paddock very happy with this result. It's Force India on the top step.
There you have it. We win the Canadian Grand Prix at the second time of asking on F1 2018 with a fastest lap to boot, a 1 minute 10.8 on the very last lap of the Grand Prix. Goes to show what kind of race times would we get if drivers pushed all the time? Daniel Ricciardo brought it home P2, and then Vettel rounded off the podium. Bottas in P4, Raikkonen P5 the two Finns. Perez fought his way back up to 6th. Verstappen, Hulkenberg, Hamilton, Gasly rounds out your top 10. But look, the only other guy on a one-stop was Pierre Gasly. He got a point for it and finished a minute behind me. I mean, Anthony Davidson said the safety car changed the race, but I personally think it was my inspired decision on Saturday that personally did it. Just because those guys had to make that additional pit stop. And I still think I personally had the pace as well, but you know, when it was clear that I wasn't going to get pole position, it was a smarter choice for me to go on those tyres due to my blunder with the engine. That win has put us into 2nd in the Drivers' Championship standings, still 50 points behind Sebastian Vettel, but what a tally of points to have, considering it's only my 2nd season in Formula 1, and we've now completed the 21 races effectively in... Oh no, we've still got to do France for the first time in a Force India, my apologies there. And we've got that, of course, coming up next. Force India moves ahead of Mercedes to P2 in the Constructors' Championship. All because of a brilliant weekend all around for myself, quite frankly. And let's go talk about that weekend with Claire.
Amazing performance out there. You must be really happy. You took the top points today. Was it a comfortable win?
I think it's easy to say it was. The strategy, the power unit, just everything worked. Just perfect. Perfect Sunday.
You were cutting your way through the field during the race.
I was, and when it comes to raw horsepower, no one can compete, quite frankly.
Everything went your way today. It looked like you had a really good strategy for the race.
I did. Came up with the strategy on Saturday myself. Good strategy and great car for managing the tyres.
You're breaking all expectations. What's your secret?
Well, can't give away everything, but knowing what I'm going to be doing ahead of time is definitely a benefit.
Appreciate your time.
Finagled my way through some of those answers. This goes to show what happens when you do a commentary on a race that you recorded a little while ago. Nonetheless, I'm the most professional man in all of entertainment. We're going to look at an upgrade here, and this is a major chassis upgrade. That could put us right up there with the best guys on chassis, but now what's letting us down is the downforce. But I keep talking about playing to our strengths. And of course the strengths is, you know, it's the BHP of this car, you know, the magnificent engine power that I've got. And it's the few of the branching trees that I actually have to be able to keep the upgrades going on this car. So, where do we want to go? We could do a major fuel consumption update. We could go with energy recovery system. Or we could go for 2 downforce upgrades. Or we could go for chassis. Or, I mean, the durability, to be honest, hasn't really been too much of a concern for me. So, there's a lot of decisions that I need to make here. I don't really do weight distribution because I'll be honest, I'm not really 100% sure what it does. But anyway, we know that we know weight reduction is very good. We also know tyre wear can be very good because this car's been very good in its tyres. I mean, you saw it in the Grand Prix there. I was able to do 3 extra laps on a set of tyres. I really shouldn't have been able to. But doing this major upgrade will actually allow us to feed in and start being able to actually upgrade the brakes. So we're going to do that major weight reduction upgrade for the chassis. I'm going to have to start considering doing aero at some point because the car's really falling down in the aero department. I do actually have 243 more resource points. You can see there on that tree, the car's really falling down the aero department. So that's what I'm going to need to expand on as we progress further into this season. But guys, thank you very much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed the Canadian Grand Prix. I personally feel it was a very good one. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I won the race. Who knows? Yeah, it's just one of those decisions where strategy was excellent, and I can't really fault the decision that I made on the Saturday to have my cleaner lap on the harder set of tyres and then be able to go long. It's just Canada's just one of those circuits where I do really well. You know, I also won my first race on F1 2017 at Canada, but there you go. Leave a like if you did enjoy and comment on your feedback down below. Next time we have the French Grand Prix, and that'll round out 21 races in the Force India team. If you remember in Season 1, we swapped after the French Grand Prix to go to Force India after Williams sort of slapped me in the face with a deal, and we started in Austria for them. So, yeah, first time driving the French Grand Prix in the Force India. Then, of course, we go back to Austria, which will be our 1-year anniversary, quote-unquote, with the team. So, remember to subscribe and enable them notifications to be kept up to date with the content that comes to the channel. I like being able to say that quite quickly and know exactly how I'm going to say it. And again, I'll probably stumble my words at some point. This has been a rambly outro. I'm a go now. See you next time.